Hey, what is going on, y'all? It is riding season. We're well into June and all of those bikes are dusted off from the winter. I wanted to put together 8 tips for new and experienced riders for things that you should consider when you're purchasing a bike. Whether it's your first bike or you haven't had a bike in a long time, I want you to consider these 8 things. Now, you say to yourself, why am I standing here on an Air Force base with a jet behind me? This has to do with the #1 tip, and this tip is invaluable, and it will take you a long way and get you to ride safe throughout your riding time. Let's go. My first tip, number 8, is are you a new or used kind of person? My 2 motorcycles that I purchased, a 2009 Kawasaki Vulcan, and I'll pop a picture up of it here. And also this 2021 Street Glide Special. I knew going in I wanted to buy brand new. I'm a mechanic by trade, or at least I used to be. And so I want to know the things that are done to this vehicle, and I can tell and know when something is wrong with it simply because I've been with it for years. I had my 2009 Kawasaki Vulcan for about 6 years, I want to say, before I sold it. Let me think. I sold it in 2020. Actually, that's not true. I had it for 11 years. I had that motorcycle for 11 years. But anyway, my point is, are you a new or a used kind of person? Know that going in, so that way when you're shopping, you can target what it is specifically that you want. We talked to Matt at Bayside Harley Davidson, and I'm gonna pop that part in here, and then we'll hop on to the next tip. Closing out, is there anything else you'd like to add?
The one thing that I kind of touched on a little bit when we were talking about, new versus used, and I do want to get this point across. A lot of people think used is always cheaper, is always easier. I prefer to put new riders on new because, for one, they're getting the latest technology with the rider modes and all that stuff, and with 2, we can give you better options as far as a service plan or a maintenance plan versus a used, where we can still do a little bit, but not as much. So for the new rider, unfortunate things happen when we ride. And if they do on a newer bike, it's a lot better, and there's a lot more options for that in case that were to happen.
Yeah, he's over there heckling you, man.
I know he is. I know he is.
No, but that's absolutely perfect. And when I bought my Harley Davidson, I knew I was going new, and I did everything that you just mentioned. I got the service plan, I got the extended warranty. That's just how I want that security. Just in case something does go wrong, I want that security. All right, so I'm here on this overcast day to talk to you about something pretty serious, especially when it comes to motorcycle riding. So my question to you is, as a new rider or even an experienced rider, do you have life insurance? Do you have a will? Do you have things set up just in case something happens when you're out there riding around? There was a statistic from 2021 where there were thousands of people that died in motorcycle accidents in the US. Those are the most recent stats that I could find, and I'll put the exact numbers down here. But it's something we actually need to consider and can't simply ignore simply because we think we're great riders or whatever the case may be. I want you to stay tuned for the #1 tip that I give that will help you avoid injuries and illnesses and incidents to make sure that you're around for those who are counting on you. On to the next tip. All right, so for this tip, you have to strongly consider the price of ownership. And what does that mean? Obviously, that means gas, like at the Royal Farms here. Royal Farms has recently taken over as my favorite gas station because it's right on my way to work, so that helps out a little bit. But that's not really what we're talking about here. But anyway, my point is, what is the cost of ownership? Not just gas, not just the minimum things to ride the bike, but talk about oil changes, talk about regular service, all those other kinds of things. You need to take into account the cost of ownership. I know I got caught off guard by the service that is required at every interval that's in the maintenance schedule on the back of the owner's manual. And so when I saw the prices for service at the Harley dealership, I had sticker shock, ranging anywhere from $300 for your first service to $500 or $600 for your additional services, depending on what it is that you need to do in your area and your dealership and all that other kind of stuff. So what I did when I purchased my Harley, and my tip to you is to purchase the service plan. I got the service plan when I bought my bike, and I have 30,000 miles on my bike now, and that plan is more than paid for itself. Luckily, because I was able to pay mine off with minimal interest. But this is huge for you to consider when it comes to purchasing a motorcycle, is keeping regular service on it. If you are not doing the service yourself, then you're gonna have to pay somebody else to do it, and you need to keep up with it because you're on a two-wheel bike. You want everything to be right with it. Also in the cost of ownership, you have to take into account insurance as well, because you're not getting around riding that bike, or at least you shouldn't be without insurance. Let's go ahead and head to the next tip.
All right, so the next topic I want to talk about is proper dress for riding. And you're gonna say to yourself, Jeff, I see you in this video right now, and you are not dressed what someone would deem to be appropriately. And to me, this is a personal choice. To me, you choose whether to wear a lot of gear that could, you know, people have various reasons. It's not comfortable, I get too hot, so on and so forth. Or you can wear a lot of gear, a lot of protective gear. I am of the crowd that I'm not going to wear a lot of protective gear. I wear a full face helmet, as you can see. I keep telling myself that I will never wear a half shell again. I try hard never to say never, because whenever I do that, it seems that things always go the other way. Similar to, I said I'd never buy a Harley Davidson because they were overpriced, and look at me now. So, as you can see, I'm gonna put myself in cruise right now. As you can see, I'm not wearing any gloves. It's a nice day out. I just don't want to. And there'll be a lot of controversy about that, I'm sure. And please drop your comments down drop your thoughts down in the comments. But like I said, I'm not wearing any gloves. I'm wearing regular jeans. I just came from work. I'm wearing a jacket that my work gave me. And because I feel like for me, this is comfortable and enough for what I'm doing and the weather. When it becomes 80 some odd degrees outside, I will be wearing shorts when I leave work. That's what I do. I don't judge anybody. There's a name out there, I can't remember what it is. You guys know what it is. Put it down in the comments. There's a name out there that they use for people that, you know, that don't dress right and all this other kind of stuff. To me, just like we say, ride your ride. Don't let anybody else dictate how you ride your motorcycle. As long as you're not endangering anybody else or yourself, directly at least anyway, ride your ride and wear what you want to wear. The reason why I wear a full face helmet is your brain is your mechanism, right? It's your drive. It controls everything. And to me, I will cover myself the most on my head, for my brain, my face, the whole 9 yards. So that's where I wear a full face helmet. I probably won't buy a half shell. But other than that, I really don't armor up, and that's my personal choice. But again, for those who are first-time riders, make that decision early on what it is you're gonna do. And what I will say is when I first started riding, I had everything on. I had a padded jacket with the elbows and everything, padded pants, the whole 9 yards. And as my confidence grew, and I felt like I wouldn't put myself in a situation where those things would be needed, although like you say, you never know when that's gonna happen, I choose not to wear those things, and I've been that way since probably 2011, 2013, and I started riding in 2009. So again, that's a personal choice, but as a first-time rider, I definitely recommend that you get the gear, you gear up until you get comfortable, and then make a decision. Don't start out right out the jump without gloves, without protective clothing. There's plenty of it out there to choose from, plenty of styles, the whole 9 yards. But the thing is when you're first learning to ride, you're more likely to dump it, you're more likely to stall out and slip and all these other kind of things that come with learning how to ride a bike. So that's my tip to you on proper dress, proper protective gear. Beautiful sights of the Air Force Base here. Got a replica B-52 over there, up on stilts. And I believe that is an F4 up there on a peg. So when purchasing a bike, you really want to know your purpose also. So is your purpose going to be around town, you know, going 10 to 15 minutes to work? That may mean one thing in terms of what kind of bike you buy. Or, for instance, I drive to work 35 miles every day, 70 miles. I could probably get away with like a Road King or something like that, something without a fairing, but I prefer a fairing. Not to mention, when I can, I take road trips. And I've been up and down the East Coast so far, as far south as South Carolina, and as far north as Pennsylvania, and I hope to do more in the years coming. So that's a part of what this channel is all about. But really consider what it is that you want and buy right within the range that you need it in. Don't overbuy and don't underbuy, because you may be disappointed. Especially if you underbuy, you're going to be disappointed. And who wants to spend hard-earned money that way? But seriously consider what type of riding you're going to be doing, whether you're going to be touring, whether you're going to be in town, or whatever the case may be. Off-roading, for example. You know, obviously an off-road motorcycle like a Pan America or something like that would really be clutch for something like that. So really understand what it is that you want to do. Take this part from Matt right here in the video that we made a few weeks ago also.
So, hey Matt, when somebody comes in and they're a new rider, new to bikes altogether, kind of walk me through what it is you tell them and what you do from there.
Okay, so the biggest thing when we get a new rider in, trying to gauge what their needs are as far as the size of a motorcycle, experience level. It's more of fitting our guests to the individual bike first.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And once we get that actual fitment piece, then we can start talking specifics on what type of riding they plan on doing. Whether they're going to be just commuting to and from work, whether they're planning on taking their family on trips and stuff like that.
So on this tip, I'm going to highly recommend that you do test rides of any motorcycle that you want to buy. If you're buying used, it might be a little tough because sometimes sellers don't want to let somebody ride their bike for a number of reasons, which are legitimate. You know, you might take off with it, you might wreck it, whatever the case may be. But what I would recommend if you're buying a used bike is drop a contract between you and that individual and both of y'all sign it. That's what I did when I sold my Vulcan, and I'll pop up a picture of that here. But anyway, test ride the motorcycle that you want to buy. Get a feel for what it is that you're going to be riding, because you're going to plan to put on a bunch of miles on this thing, or at least I hope you do. And you want to enjoy it. You don't want to be uncomfortable, and you don't want to turn around and buy another bike. So this tip recommends that you test ride any motorcycle that you're going to buy. On to the next tip. For the next tip, I want to talk about deciding what kind of bike you want to buy. When you're in the Air Force, the military, or you have a bunch of people around you influencing you on what to buy, that can be a good or a bad thing, right? I had a good buddy of mine, he talked me out of buying a trike because I was nervous about getting on two wheels, especially with something very powerful. I'm so glad he talked me out of it. I was looking at a Spider, I think, or something like that, and he talked me out of it. But my point is, know what it is before you head into the dealership, what it is you want to buy. Do your research, get on YouTube. Go around the shops. Don't worry about the pressure necessarily you feel when you're in a shop to purchase a bike. But talk to people. Ask yourself, what is it that I'm going to be doing with this motorcycle? So I'm glad y'all hung in there for my number one tip. And right behind me is the number one tip that I could give a new motorcycle rider. People ride around without their licenses. People ride around doing all kinds of things without the proper training. Training is the bedrock of doing anything successful. We are rarely gifted at doing things. We often have to train and learn how to do them, be taught the proper way. So my number one suggestion for a new rider is take the Motorcycle Safety Foundation course. As I opened it in the beginning of the video, when I was in the military, I had to take the course. And the good thing was they paid for it for me to go. So that was really cool. Back then it was $100. I would have paid it gladly knowing what I know now. Now within my area, it's about $200, but it's still worth the money, and here's why. The number one reason I feel like it's worth the money is obviously your safety. Number two, you get your license right after you finish the class as long as you pass. Number three, you get a discount on your insurance in most cases. Who could go wrong with that? You save your life, you get good training, you get a discount, you get your license and don't have to go to the DMV. It's a win-win. So take this consideration really strongly. Among all the other things that I told you, take this consideration really strongly to take a Motorcycle Safety Foundation course and build your skills from the beginning. I want to thank y'all for watching this video, and I want to thank y'all for riding with me. And remember to always ride as if your life depends on it. Peace.